Well, welcome. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I'm Brian Palma. I run our advanced services team for Cisco, which is all of our professional and managed services. You might remember, saw me on the keynote, which was exciting. Great show so far. I think you're really going to enjoy what we've got for you today. So we announced Business Critical Services in October. It's a new platform for our advanced services team. And there's a feature in there and a platform called Business Critical Insights. Brett Dunstan is with us today. He's one of our advanced senior technical advisors, and he's as good as they get in our organization. We've had the opportunity to work together many times. Brett's the brains behind a lot of what you're going to see. So not only are you going to get to see someone who uses it, but you're going to get to see someone who designed it as well. He lives outside of Melbourne, Australia, right? And he won't tell you this. When I talked to him originally, he told me he ran a little bit. And then I found out he was one of the top 5 Ironmen in the world. So he goes to Hawaii every year, and he places in the top 5. So that's pretty cool. So he's got some other things he'll probably share with you, some other tidbits. But I think you're going to enjoy it. We hope you have a good time. Any questions? Brett's the guy to answer it. So thanks for coming today. Brett, over to you.
Thanks, Brian.
All right.
Well, let me just go with this, and let's get to the next screen. So as Brian said, I'm Brett Dunstan, Senior Technical Leader in Advanced Services, based out of Australia. And I'm pretty much helping to design and architect the Business Critical Insights platform. So let me just level set. If you've seen some of this before, the new Business Critical, we've got analytics, automation, compliance, remediation, and security. The main part that I'm going to touch on today is the analytics component, which is obviously what we're leveraging Business Critical Insights itself. So let me just move on, just to, again, level set what's happening. So what we do today, we have a collector on the customer premise. Okay, we're collecting inventory, configuration, show commands, syslog. All of that's getting put into a big zip file, compressed as being encrypted, sent back to Cisco encrypted. Okay, so that's across all of our 800 customers that we're dealing with. Once we do that, we bring it into this profiling engine. And the benefit there is that what we're doing is we're normalizing the data, we're cleaning the data, we're pulling out key components from the show commands. Okay, we're also leveraging all of our EOX, field notice, all the engineering data. We're merging all of that together with consulting engineers' knowledge, rules. And basically what we end up with is a large, I suppose you could say, large data store of all this normalized data that we can then leverage. Okay. From there, that's when we bring it into our analytics platform. On top of all that, we're bringing in service requests from TAC. We're bringing in geolocation information, topology, modeling type information, other NCE rules, which obviously I'll touch on because that's a key component to the platform that we've got, bit of machine learning, and some other custom algorithms. Okay, so all of this together, we've now got a platform inside Cisco that we can obviously leverage from the bottom part. So we've got an internal component, which I'll share. We've got the external customer-facing component. Okay, so the key part of this is business critical services. Okay, this is a service. We're not talking about giving the customer another tool. We're not saying here's another Rancid, here's another HP OpenView, here's another tool that you need to dump into your data center. It's all about a consulting engineer. It's all about giving them the knowledge, okay, so that they can consult better to the customer. And what we're talking about here is we've got about 2.7 million devices, which equates to about 5.6 million chassis. So when I talk device, we could have like a 9K, and then other platforms, we've obviously got the satellite components. So that is considered one device. So a stack is a device, okay, but we've got each of the individual chassis that we manage. And it'll make more sense in a minute. Into this, we're also bringing in about 150 million syslogs a day. Okay, we're also bringing in about 6,800 new service requests. But the real power here is all of the knowledge that the NCEs bring, the consulting engineers. Okay, so that's all this bottom part here. So what they're doing is that they're bringing in syslog knowledge, software knowledge, custom knowledge down the bottom here. Okay, so what that means is that when they're consulting with the customer, it's now actually tailored to the customer. It's not that one size fits all. Yep.
Yeah, now I'm totally confused because the previous presentation was on my diagnostic from TAC, and now you are showing me more or less exactly the same functionality, but it's now a different tool and a different deployment model, and I'm going like,
It's a very good question. I was giving the bread. So think about my diagnostic itself. It's just like the little tech thing. That's going to be far above. I mean, that's advanced services with the network consulting engineer. So so here the My Diagnostic Bridge is going to infuse just a little bit in the whole system. So we are much smaller there in the big picture.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So as part of that, like the diagnostic bridge, that is going to be one component that we're tapping into. So yeah, absolutely. So, and the other key part is that we're looking at a consulting engineer coming in over the top, and it's all about the consulting. Okay, it's not about single break fix one device, and you'll see that in a few minutes. It's actually a larger network picture than just that. So I completely understand where you're coming from there.
And the second thing we were discussing in the previous presentation, and there they were dancing very carefully about that. And here, if I would be a Swiss bank, I would be worried. What types of my data do you put into Cisco data center?
So most of it's metadata. So we're talking about hardware platform, we're talking about software. We're not bringing in like IP addresses or things like that. They get anonymized, okay, to the majority of the part. Not all customers are uploading, okay, so to that point. But you are absolutely correct. A lot of it is just pure metadata. And it's...
If customers are not uploading, then what do you do? Because it sounded like you need them to upload something to you.
For some components, absolutely. But so there is a smaller on-prem solution that is for the military and defense, etc. But the real power here is the fact that if you can get data back into Cisco, we can leverage all of this intellectual capital knowledge, which is not going out to that endpoint. So that's where the real power is. Because as soon as you start to put things like machine learning, clustering algorithms, etc., across all of those devices, that's when you get the most power out of the platform.
So that means there's a smaller subset for a local installation where nothing leaves the company? Correct. In our case, I'm in defense, so we never would allow something like this for most of our networks.
Absolutely. I've worked with the Australian Defence, and so what we do there, or what we have done there in the past, it gets deployed as a single unit collection. And when let's say they finish the contract, they smash the hard drive, they smash everything, and you never get it back. So I completely agree. Yep. And that is one, so to touch on that, so all of this is in Cisco Data Center, to your point. The power is coming into the Cisco Data Center. As far as the on-prem solution, it's quite small at the moment. As a development group, we're working on that to actually up-rev and make sure that all that scales a lot better. But as I said, the real power is obviously when you do get it back to Cisco.
I have to ask another question. How do Cisco partners, particularly those that invested in services organizations, how delighted are they about this?
Well, funny enough, I had a presentation probably 4 hours ago to the partners on exactly this. I didn't get a lot of questions, but the goal here is that we're looking to on-sell this service. So from a partner perspective, the technical details we're obviously still working out. But if a partner can, so this is customizable as well. So imagine if I can deliver this to a partner, the partner can then either on-sell the service as a service, or if we can get this platform, and these are the technical details that obviously I don't know yet, we have to kind of work all of that out with the partners because it's brand new for them. But if we can leverage that and we can start to do customization, the whole crowdsourcing, the whole modeling from that, absolutely. Yeah, so feedback coming back from the partners.
As a summary that I understand the idea. Is the idea, if I want to engage with Cisco Professional Services, that your organization, yeah, so that the engineer somehow has already all the data there, or is it more for long-term things where I actually outsource something to you, and you do this in a long term?
Okay, so it's not professional services, but that's fine. So this collector that goes on site, okay, so that's on the customer premise. It's collecting all of that data and it's bringing it back to Cisco. So let's say the majority of the time it's a 12-month engagement. It is like a subscription that we do. Some are three years, some are a bit longer. There's also transactional engagements, which could be just like a one-off engagement, like what was being talked about at the original kickoff meeting when they were talking about the hospital and standing up, like DNA center, etc. So in this case, this would be more like a 12-month engagement that we're working with the customer with the goal of stabilizing their network, with the goal of making sure that everything is, I'll say the word optimized, but make sure that everything's running how it should be running, okay? Because so when we bring all of this in, one key thing is that I've been to a lot of customers and you'll say, so what version of software are you running? And they say, everything's perfect, all of our software's fine, all of our configuration's fine. And when you go in and do an audit, you'll find out that the version of code that they're running on the platform wasn't what they thought it was. Same with the configurations, completely missing from what they thought it was. So part of this is all about conformance and making sure that the network's actually running the way that they're expecting it to run. But to your point, the data is being pulled in from here every day. So we've got a continual stream of data being updated. And so that's obviously where that does come.
So a typical use case would be a complete audit across the complete infrastructure, things like that, yeah?
That is one use case, absolutely. Okay. Yep, for sure. So, and I suppose the key here is that I've talked to different customers and they say, whatever you do not give me another tool, okay? They've got enough. I've talked to enough of the service providers and they say, I've got 1 million tools that we don't even use today. So the power here is that this isn't a tool that we're putting on premise for the customer to drive. It's not another NOC tool. It's not another NMS tool. It's all about the NCE getting the data or the consulting engineer getting that data so that they can make an informed decision. That's the key. That's the real crux.
So because you said it's not professional service, which consulting engineer gets that data? So I'm a little bit confused. For who is this meant? Who will use that?
So when I think of professional services, I think of an engagement that someone's actually going to go and deploy hardware. They're going to go and deploy configuration. They're actually going to go and do an installation. That's how I think of professional services. So let's say you're a customer, you've already got your network. We're looking to optimize it. It's that engineer, that consulting engineer that's coming in over the top to help you and consult to you as to how you should improve your network. I'm not actually necessarily going to go in and do the tapping and the fixing and the racking and stacking. I'm going to come in over the top and help you as a customer to improve your network, to improve your standards. So it's more of a consulting aspect.
We call it ongoing professional services, but it's a subscription model, is how we sell it. It's a subscription model, that's all. So to your point, the people who are engaged in it are like professional services folks, but it's just the manner in which it's delivered.
So only that I have it right. Is this the same organization inside Cisco, or these are two different organizations?
They're all underneath services.
Okay,
They're all
services.
underneath services. And there's just different applications about how we go to market. That's the difference. Yeah.
So as an example, like my peers, so I report to Brian, but my peers are in TS, the guys that would have just presented to you before. So I talk with them about the Diagnostic Bridge, and I talk with them about their rules and their signatures, etc. So we're absolutely...
And the broader vision, just so you know, not to bore you with a lot of background, but the broader vision was we used to have multiple collectors, right? We've reduced that down to a single analytics engine that has multiple purposes, as he articulated just a bit ago, right? It serves our TS team when they do support work, and it also serves our professional managed service team doing our services.
Yeah, and I'll touch on that with the technical services. I've got 2 demos. One is how we're delivering today, and then I've got another one kind of showing a DevOps / crowdsourcing type model, which will help to kind of explain that a bit more. But all good questions. So I'm going to dive straight into the demo. So this is how a customer would see it. So this is business critical insights. This is the platform as the customer would actually see it. Okay, so what we're looking at is we have what's considered a good morning screen. So the idea here is that it's got events that have happened in the last 24 hours. Okay, generally actionable events, whether it's last day of support, software upgrades, crashes or reloads. So it's all about saying what's happened in the network whilst I was potentially offline. I've come back 9 o'clock in the morning, I've grabbed my coffee. Is there anything in the first 5 minutes of my day as a consulting engineer that I need to know about to then go and action to the customer?
So is this for your engineer or is this for the customer?
Both. So when I look here, so back to this screen here, this is internal. Blue is internal for me as a consulting engineer to use, and I'll show you what that dashboard looks like. And this is the external for the customer to use. So as an example, if you think historically, if you've seen advanced services, so let's say we do a quarterly review, or we do a design review, or we look at some level of software. Previously, what we did was we delivered it on a PDF file, and we would send you 50 pages of document, and I would send it to you once a quarter. That would be our level of engagement. You would ring me up, and I would say, okay, let me go and generate that report, and I would engage with you that way. Now what we're talking about is with this, it's a constant thing. You don't have to ring me up and ask for that information. You've constantly got access to that information.
So you automated the report generation.
Well, it's more than just a report, but yeah, absolutely.
I'm a little bit confused. There was also another tool called Smart Collector. This is kind of a replacement for that as well?
So the Smart Collector, it's actually the same collector. We're just collecting slightly different data. So the CSPC, the Cisco collector, is being used by SNTC, is being used by TS. The actual collector code, the software itself, is the same software. What we're doing, though, is we're bringing it into Cisco and leveraging the data in different ways.
Collector stays the same, only on the back-end side you...
We leverage it in different ways.
Okay.
We actually collect different commands as well. Slightly different commands. Yep. Because TAC is originally more about that reactive, capturing that knowledge. Yep. Does that... Okay. I mean, I kind of know it, so I just want to make sure that it, that it comes across for yourself. So the other piece that we look at, so we look at Syslog, and this is my kind of demo server, but everyone's got a Syslog server. Everyone's got Syslog analysis. Everyone does Syslog reporting. I'd be deluded to think that they didn't, okay? What we're bringing to the picture is a level of filtering. So we've got thousands of NCEs or consulting engineers who have built intellectual capital. They've built knowledge objects so that when I filter, and again, this good morning is all about first 5 minutes of my day. Is there anything that I need to action right now whilst I'm having my coffee? So this basically takes tens of pages, millions of messages, and filters it down to messages that will potentially cause you a problem in the near future. So I'm not going to tell you about a restart. I'm not going to tell you about a reload, because if you don't already know about that, your own network management system, there's something wrong. So what we're trying to leverage is not signatures yet, but this is just the first start of reducing that complete noise of Syslog down to a smaller component to then say, this is what we need to look at immediately. Okay? Now, I can drill into any of these. I'm not going to go into too much detail with this because we've obviously got limited time, etc. But what we have here is for any of these, I can drill into this and I can see the device level Syslog. So I can drill in here and I can say, for this device and this mnemonic, this is what's happening over time, okay? So I can see trending over time, is it a brand new type of message? Have I never seen it in the last 10 days? Have I never seen it before? How do I start to leverage this? So this is the very simplistic Syslog analysis.
And where do you get the Syslog from? I send it to my on-site collector?
Collector, correct. So if I go back, if I go back here, this collector, inventory, configuration, command line, and Syslog. So it can either be like running rsyslogd, or it can be just capturing from an NFS mount. So we just get that Syslog straight back to Cisco. Yep. Okay, so what I really wanted to kind of touch on, not Syslog, but there's two components that I wanted to really touch on here. One is conformance. Okay, conformance all about making sure that what me as a consulting engineer has discussed with you as a customer based on software. What's the best version of code that we should be running? We've sat down, we've looked at the hardware, we've looked at the features, and we've identified what software we need to run on those platforms based on the role in the network. So that's one conformance that we want to make sure. Configuration is another. We want to make sure that all of your configurations are standard. All of your configurations are running the best configuration options that they can be running. And that's what I was saying before, that what we do is, I've talked to different customers and they say, our configurations are perfect. But as soon as you delve into them, you always find some level of anomaly. Okay? And it's those anomalies in their configuration that can obviously cause you problems. Okay? So this KPI is all about making sure that you're conforming to both your best practices, whether it's a golden template in your network, or a discussion that we've had relative to software, EOX, field notices, PCerts, just to make sure that your network is actually running and configured as you've designed it. Okay? Intent, absolutely. Because chances are, I'll put money on it, that if you think that your network's running the way you think it is, chances are, I've seen it a million times, that it's not. And I used to work in TAC, and the best quote I ever heard from a customer, we changed nothing, but what we did change, we changed back. So you obviously changed something. So this is helping you capture that. Best quote I've ever heard when I worked in TS previously. I had to drop that one in there. So, again, I can drill into all of these. Like I can drill into, oops. I had preloaded these just, I can obviously drill into any of them. So what we're looking at here, I'll just share one component of the conformance. So this is just purely looking at software, and that's its current state. So we have two flavors of conformance. We have absolute conformance, which is our green, and that is the version of code that we've all decided on. That platform is running that version of code, or that track is running that version of code. And then we have flexible conformance, which is N-2 by default. So it's the version of code that we agreed upon either now, or the previous one, or the previous one. Obviously, if you're a 10,000 node network, you're never going to upgrade that overnight. So you're still in conformance to N-2 by default. That can be N-1, that part is absolutely configurable. And the benefit here is that when you start to share this with management, at least when we get down here, all of this tracking and trending management that we're working with, when you go to a QBR, you go to that meeting with management, at least here, everyone knows where we stand. We're focusing on a particular software version. We're focusing on, let's say we're focusing on our ASA firewalls on the far left for you guys. If we're going to focus on that, let's make sure that we're actually tackling that. If we've talked to the customer's C level or to that director level, and we've all agreed, let's focus on that for this next 90 days or this next quarter, let's actually track that and make sure that we're actually meeting our targets. So it's keeping both us, Cisco, honest, along with the customer to make sure that we're actually everything's moving in the right direction.
What's flexible conformance?
That was at N-2. If you never heard that. So flexible means that if we've agreed to run 12.2.23s, that's the version we want to run now. But last month, let's say, we were going to run 12.2.22s. Okay? I can't upgrade every device at the same time. So those two versions are still actually valid. They're still relevant versions of code to run. So I don't want to ding the customer. I don't want to ding the engineer that I'm peers with at the customer level by saying, as soon as we change versions, you're out of conformance, which is obviously not correct. Okay, so it's managing that.
In this case, is there anything that is lower than N-2? So what happens if it is?
So N-2, well, that is considered N-2, N-3. Anything above that is considered N-3.
If I have something that is N-3 or...
It's instantly considered not conforming in this instance.
Okay, so do I see, is there something in there that is not conforming?
Absolutely. So if I click on that, come on. Hopefully my internet's still, okay. So here you've got flexible conformance false. So this device here, that RTP6 SGS7K, it's not conforming at all, either flexibly or actually conforming. So we would go and tackle that device, talk to the customer, talk to my peer at the customer and say, how do we get this onto the recommended version 6.2.10?
Okay, the reason why I ask is because conformance and flexible conformance, as you explained it, is like it's perfectly conformant.
Yes.
And it's like up to N-2 conformant, that would be flexible.
Yes.
So I was missing the none at all conformance bar up there.
Well, that's that.
It's whatever is missing to 100%.
So what's missing to 100%? All right, okay. Yeah,
sorry.
now I got it. No, it's
Long day.
I'm too tired probably. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're sitting in this room for a while. Oh, okay. If I put that in, that's going to confuse other people. So I suppose what I really wanted to then completely shift and explain what the platform is all about. So this is our customer platform. Okay, customer gets this, partners get this. What our engineers get access to, and let me me just move across to this one. So as you'll see, we've got a lot more menus at the top. Let me just make this a bit bigger for you guys. A lot more menus at the top. So this is our internal portal. This is what the consulting engineers have access to. So we've got things like root cause analysis, we've got global, we've got a whole lot of new things that the NCE gets access to. What they also get access to is the platform as a whole. What I mean by that is they can go and create their own dashboards. They've got access to all of those devices. They've got access to all of that data. Okay? So when I'm actually working with my customer, I can tailor the dashboard. I can build a whole new dashboard. So now instead of historically in a program, you may have 20, 30, 40 developers. You give them a business document, you give them the document is, this is what I want you to build. Now what we've done is we've enabled all of our consulting engineers to tackle the problem if they choose to. So now we've actually opened this up to about 2,000 new, I say new in quotes, developers that can now help to tailor this. Okay? So what I was doing, I was talking to an engineer, and this is one of our DevOps ones, so this absolutely is not available. This is just something that we put together because it was a question that they had to us. Okay? So this is where the engineer gets to build what they need to answer a question. And so things like, so what this is all about is far left, we've received a new case number. I've obviously used bogus case numbers in this case, but they're real service requests, could be coming in live. And as soon as we get that case number, I grab that serial number and I look it up in our database of that 5 million chassis, 5 million devices. If I find a match, what I then do, I can find out whether it's running the right version of code. So instantly I know if they've opened a service request, is it running the version of code that we've all talked about that we should be running? So instantly I know whether the problem is potentially related to that, okay? We've also got our product ID. The key here that we're now adding, let me just drag this across, you'll see a lot of words here called similar, okay? Similar device, similar company, similar device name. So what we've done is we've taken every single device that we've got access to, hardware, software, features, and a few other characteristics, and we've created a fingerprint for every single device that we've got access to. Okay? So what I can now do is if I've got an event, whether it's a Syslog event, whether it's a service request, whatever that event is, I can now take that fingerprint from that device that's got the event, and I can say, show me any other device in my ecosystem that matches, in this case, 85% similar. So now I know if I've got a problem on this device here, and it's a singular issue, I also know any other device in my network, in this case, this guy's 92% similar, it may eventually have that same problem, potentially. So now, depending on what the problem is, we're now actually getting in front of the curve. We're now doing that predictive or preemptive style looking. So now I can say, if I've got 10 devices that are 95, 99, 98% similar, they may actually have the same problem. So if the attacker's got a single case, the consulting engineer can get in front of the curve and they can say, are these devices the same? I can now go and look at those other 10, 5, 12 devices and see if they're actually going to have the same type of issue. I think that just got to wind up then. I'll touch on one final thing, and hopefully this will load up because this was... So what we now do, again, this is from a DevOps environment. So this is what a consulting engineer has built on our internal platform. So now what we do is we take that to the next level. And if geolocation is important, I know exactly where that device is. I know exactly what's happened. If it's relevant, its physical location, then I know that as a consulting engineer. So when I talk to the customer, I know who I'm talking to, I know what I'm talking about. We also have topology or connected parts of the device. So I know that this is the device that's got the problem. In this case, if it's BGP, I know who it's also connected to. Okay? So nothing necessarily special there. Lots of network management stations have topology. Lots of network management stations have geolocation. It's the ability now that what we've done is we've given all of that knowledge, all of that information into the platform. So now a consulting engineer can take that next step. They can consult. If I give this to a consulting engineer now, not only do they see all this information, they don't have to go running around looking for the information, it's at their fingertips. They've actually got more time to consult. They've got more time to spend with their customer. Okay, so that's the real crux here. Business critical S is service. It's all about a consulting service. The platform that we've got here, as I said, it's got the internal and it's got the external. As you were talking about earlier, we're working with the TS Advantage guys. We are working very closely with TS along with a lot of other internal parts of Cisco to make sure that the outcome that the NCE or the consulting engineer can give to our customer is the best answer we can ever give them. Okay? If I don't have access to the data, or if I don't have access to the tools, I can't consult to the customer. So it's all about getting that data to the person that needs it most so that they can make that informed decision such that when they talk back to the customer, it's a no-brainer. So I think that was the wind-up before. Yeah. So I'll finish there, and obviously throw any questions.
I have one question. Across the whole Cisco portfolio, this is only working with switches and routers, or you support nearly everything that you have in the portfolio?
So pretty much everything in the portfolio. I don't have like we do in the UCSs and switches and etc. What we are tapping into next is DNA Center. I'm starting to talk to the DNA guys. It's not just Cisco. So I could give you a topology, Alcatel, Huawei, Lucent, Juniper. I don't care. It's all SNMP, it's all inventory. We've got parsers that do all that. So obviously I'm not going to have a service request for a Juniper box. That's obviously not going to happen. But if there's a Juniper box here that I know its MAC address and I've been able to capture like SNMP RFC information, I'm going to put you a Juniper box here. And if there's an issue between connecting from this box here through to this box and it's a Juniper box in the middle, I'm going to know that.
Okay, so you have a more generic approach in trying to get everything into your database.
Take whatever you give me. I'll take your toaster. I don't care. The more information that I can give my NCE or my consulting engineer, the better answer, the better decision, the better outcome he's going to give you. That's my goal. So I kind of work back off it. So whatever I can do to give them knowledge, I'll give them anything.
Can say me that toaster's running hot, yeah?
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. I mean, to what Brian said, I was actually going to connect my bike up, not to this, but basically connect my bike up, measure power, watts, all that kind of stuff, just because I can.